Welcome everyone, this is Pilot Eagles, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at latest in LOTRO and hear LOTRO players. And this week, I'm joined by Krister,
Hello.
Cinders,
Hello.
and Sanswinda.
Hello, everybody.
So, are you ready for a beast of an episode?
Sure.
Ah,
It sounds
Uh,
beastly already.
yes, this is episode 666.
oh boy.
Ooh. Maybe it's
Uh,
dragonish.
Dragonish? Oh, that type of beast? Well, I guess that's a type of beast that would be quite appropriate to LOTRO, like a dragon or a Balrog.
Yep.
We'll
Yep.
we'll see if one of them tries to take over.
Uh-huh.
Or, as we'll see later in this episode, maybe even an Angram sorceress.
Ooh.
Well, let's start
Uh,
with our latest update, and that is update 48.3, which was released on May 20th of 2026. That was this past Wednesday, where it had the conclusion to the storyline of A Glorious Hunt. That's right, you could join Sharamazadi in Ingaruma in Paharhaka, Harakali for the epic conclusion of A Glorious Hunt storyline, as she seeks her vengeance upon the villainous Barshud and a return to peace in the lands of Shigana and Merjala. A Glorious Hunt is free to VIPs and is available in the Loto store if you're not a VIP. And this includes everything except the capstone instance. Of course, there's a capstone instance on top of this, but it does conclude the main storyline. That is, of course, Mazadi versus Barshud. And yes, I think we've been waiting for him to be finished with for a long time. Or I don't know how long. Have you had much interaction with Barshud?
I have not, but I haven't
You
done
have.
You
much in the
asking
newest
me?
areas.
I suspect Cinders is has all been in my presence all around.
Uh, that would be accurate. I was like, "Are you asking me? Because I'm pretty sure you know the answer." That's what I
Yes.
was thinking. I was like,
Well, it's had some interaction with them this week, right? Uh, yes. Krister, did you ever have a chance to meet Barshud?
no, not yet.
Not yet. Okay, you need to work your way on working with that. But I would say that I don't consider Barshud to be quite up to quite up to Motzog level of villainous yet, though. But all right. Or actually, I think a much more interesting one, I guess, from recent times would have been, of course, would have been the opponents in the Song of Waves and Wind itself. That we had some interesting villains there. But anyway, A Glorious Hunt concludes, and as for notes on this, an adjustment has been made to our load balancer to improve game performance in heavier instances and raids. This change aims to reduce the impact of too many groups sharing the same server instance on performance and should help during rating and instance grouping with some of the most server lag caused by less optimized load balancing. So in other words, they're hoping that balancing out the loads a little bit might reduce the drag upon our servers. We can only hope so. The missions in Sulmadash and Zajana should be rotating properly. Now, this is something they actually did technically since the last update, I think a day or two after the last update, where they found a way to fix that without bringing down the servers and all. So it was probably a server side change and not a client side change. So they did fix it this way, but I would presume then they made whatever updates to make sure that was permanent, I guess is probably what they did in this case in order to make sure that everything is now working properly in there. Either that or they just want to make sure that this is something that happened since the last update. Rivendell housing music no longer stops playing when transitioning between floors and now smoothly changes based on the music choice. Player housing in general, when music item is changed in a housing decoration slot, the audible music now updates immediately. Originally, players would need to exit and re-enter the house to hear the music update. Right? Let's see. The mysterious ruined walls in Non-Thalu has been removed from non-instance landscape. This is something that I did encounter. Now, I was doing the mission that's set there, the mysterious person in the prancing pony gives you, and I did run that in, and I did notice that yes, there was a wall covering up the entrance that we usually used going into Nanthalalu. Now, what I found out later was that the same wall had also appeared in the landscape version of that, and at that time that sounded a bit off because I could understand them wanting to put that wall there for the mission, but I don't think that they intended that to change the landscape version of it. So that's something that I heard about a couple of days after I ran the mission in there, and I had a feeling that they would be changing this, and it looks like yes, they did. They fix it now, so it should be running as normal there. I guess maybe I should take a character into the North Downs, not North Downs, into the Lone Lands and check it out at some point.
Well, why not visit the North Downs while you're there?
Visit the North Downs. Okay. Yes. Okay. Increased usage range of all housing hooks. I'm sure a lot of people are happy on that. And the original scene files usage of the East Fold neighborhood has been restored. This does not guarantee that scenery assets will appear exactly as they were prior to the introduction of property fences, but should help to bring the forest closer what they previously were. Yeah, a lot of people I think were complaining about someone felling their trees or something like that in these whole fold neighborhoods. So apparently, they decided that to plant some new trees in there so that everything would be proper again. All right, let's see. Housing landmarks in Rivendell housing have been adjusted to help improve loading and access to housing features while in a property's yard. All right. Clearance boxes of housing hooks have been adjusted to match the dimensions used by the previous larger hook artwork. This change will help to defrill yards in neighborhoods that experience a sudden explosion of ground cover. Eh? And increase the default movement range for non-mobile yard hooks. I'm sure a lot of people will be happy about that.
Yep.
I'm hoping though that they did remember why they were cautious about how far they can move them in the past, because I know that they wanted to prevent people from crossing into other people's neighborhoods. You don't want to plant your pink flamingo, or at least your neighbors don't want you to plant your pink flamingos into their yard. It's usually not considered polite.
It's a fun fundraiser, though. Oh wait, wrong genre here.
Okay.
You haven't seen those as fundraisers? Like the school will send out a flock of plastic pink flamingos and put them in your yard, and they'll remove them for a donation.
Otherwise, they stay there and rot.
I have a feeling that that many HOAs would be highly will highly object to such things.
I believe
mean,
most have the flamingo
plausible.
policy.
I mean, it's so because I heard that things like pink flamingos are things that HOAs detest, and intentionally putting things into your personal yards and then saying we'll remove it if you donate to us sounds like extortion. We're talking
Which
about
is understandable.
violation of policies and extortion here.
Yeah, probably not a good look for the game. I'm
Yeah.
sure in town they had some idea of whose yard they were putting them in, and they were like teachers who had agreed to it or something. I don't know, but
Okay. Okay. In any case, whatever is it, that is it for update 48.3. A Glorious Hunt, patch 3. Now, I did say that was a little tentative on saying that this is the end of the story, and that is because there is a 48.4. Now, this, of course, is just now hit Bull Roarer. So this is update 48.4 Garden of Corpses, beta number 1. And this includes 2 items in this particular test in here. The first is Pagru Kirit, the Garden of Corpses, which is a 6-player instance with, of course, the usual 1 and 2 player versions for it. Is the ancient crypts of Pagru Kirit were built for Kishasu, the knowing below his great tower in the Second Age. Surugu now plans to use the corpses filling the crypts to raise an army of the dead for Barshu. Apparently, he didn't get the memo that that we beat Barshu. That's in any case, he's going in there, not getting certain memos and all. Besides, he probably doesn't care. He is out there to raise the dead and raise an army of the dead so that the Ordekai can win and all that stuff. And of course, we have to go in there, and that's sort of like the last little detail you have to clean up in order to finally be done with with our little pass into Merjala and all. So that's the first item in there. The second, then that is going to be for update 48.4. Now, the other thing they're testing, though, isn't for 48.4, it's for update 49, and that is the Sorceress. The Angron Sorceress returns to Bulwerer and will remain testing throughout the next several Bulwerer iterations. Since the debut last year, she has undergone changes intended to simplify and enhance her gameplay. We're excited to see her return to the Entmoors and join the fight for the forces of Angmar. And there is a feedback thread. There is a link in the for notes to feedback threads to both the Sorceress and to the Garden of Corpses. So yes, the Angron Sorceress, they're starting to get into the full test cycle because I was double checking to see what they were planning for the summer, and it looks like the key 3 items that they're planning for this summer for update 49 are 1, updates for the summer festival. So festival updates. That's for something I guess you pretty much expect to have on such things. The second thing that they're having on there was Entmore's updates. And one of the key things on that is the inclusion of the new Sorceress class within the Entmoors. And then finally, the third one that we have is class changes. It looks like they're also planning some class changes there. I have not heard any word on exactly what they're planning on that or whether they're still on track of doing some, but I know that back when we received our last letter, they said that they're expecting to have some class changes also for the summer update. We'll have to find out. We'll probably know more about that when we start to get update 49 bores when they start coming around, because there are probably a couple of borer cycles in order to for 48.4, then they'll release 48.4, then they could start serious testing on number 49. But I guess they want to make sure that the sorceress is right when they start putting all the Moore's changes up for testing. So I don't know if any of you played the Moors enough to care about the new class or not.
I haven't played since the server changes.
Hmm.
So I haven't been out on the moors since the server changes.
All right.
Like when we all transferred servers. So
Yeah.
I don't really have any good idea of what it's like or how cool this will be.
Well, it looks like you'll probably get a good idea if you try. Now they did also post a primer for this. I guess I go back into that. Let's see. Is that the next item we have coming up? Yes, there is an Angrum Sorceress primer.
Nice.
We have a link to that. And there's the Angrum Sorceress returns from Bulwers. Yeah, we talked about the good general information here. It says, unlike other classes in the Intmores, the Sorceress is built around fluid, adaptable, moment-to-moment gameplay. And through a combination of stances called devotions and preparation, and she influences the battle by combining fell elemental synergies to great effect. And in each element, acid, fire, frost, and shadow plays an integral role in determining the effects applied to the enemies during battle. So, in other words, does nasty things to you, which is pretty much sums Angrum sorceresses all the time. Just being a royal pain to you whenever you're going through Angmar, right?
Basically.
Yeah. And also, see, not the most recent week, but the week before that, Orion and Scenario had their usual get together for We Have a Game Troll, and they were talking about gaming as game designers. And that is it for our news this week. So, anyone have any questions on the news items for this week before we head out to store sales? All right, I guess that's a no. So let's let's see what we have on sale this week. Cinders, what's on sale?
Are you muted?
Okay. All right.
Maybe the warm window got to her and she fell asleep.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yes. All right. Sans, what's on sale this week?
This week you can still get the timeless patrons coffer of the Noldor through May 31st. So if you're interested in that, this is the time. You can also go there and back again with 20% off milestone skills, hurried traveler and returning traveler, advanced writing traits, and rally horns through May 28th. And the weekly coupon will get you a free skill and slayer deed boost ×1, which, as a reminder, now lasts for 6 hours, if you haven't been paying attention lately. With the coupon code Challenge Accepted. That's CHALLENGEACCEPTED. Now through May 28th as well.
All right. Then let's have a look at our new player questions for this week, where we go through some classic questions asked by Sans Winda, I forgot how many years ago. And this time we are moving into player interaction questions. So what are this week's questions?
How do you know what equipment or food, etc. you need? Often people are very willing to help, but knowing what you need can be tricky.
Boy, that's a tricky question for me because I often forget about
Well,
all
that's what I
those
was gonna say.
things.
You'd have to see what the food equipment's all about and see if it fits.
So I've discovered that, like, I thought this was, like, super important when I asked the question, but most of the time I run around without eating food, and wear whatever equipment was dropped by quest rewards until it's actually time to like get ready to go raiding or something. At level 20, I usually go to a skirmish camp and buy some new equipment and then wear that until I notice that I'm struggling to kill things, you know.
Well, you don't continue to do that until you're 150 like I do?
Sometimes I do. But I don't have like a regular set like level that I go check back in at the thing. It's just like, oh, like I'm not killing things. Oh, I'm like level 40 and I'm wearing level 25 gear. I should probably go back to the skirmish camp. But usually the quest rewards update pretty reliably. Well, I guess around level 50 I'm probably wearing my fem armor. But I don't know, how often do you go back to the skirmish camp for new armor, Pine?
I usually wind up with quest rewards, and every once in I think I have been known to say, "Okay, well, I'm 65 now. Ooh, this is a nice looking thing." And see, my current one is what, level 20?
Yep.
I
Yep.
run into that once in a while.
I usually eat food for my main stat plus food that gives you the in combat morale regen or whatever. If I need food, but I don't really. I don't go looking for food until it's time to go raiding, and I need to have some so that I can prove that I was ready for the raid.
Well, and I think that goes with a lot of things, is you can carry them and not need them or use them until you're raiding or doing the more complicated content.
No, then
Right.
you see that you have food the meta about 5 expansions ago.
Right.
Travel rations.
I do keep some travel rations and some Daleman's crams around in my shared storage in case I need them.
The travel rations?
Okay, I probably
You're
don't have any
expecting
more
to change
travel
the rules?
rations. Uh,
Yay.
but I definitely have some Daleman's crams. And I have, for a while I had some that looked like Daleman's crams but weren't.
Oh, you mean like the lambus?
Maybe. But yeah, then whatever the end game stuff is, when you get to end game and are ready to go raiding it in game, check the wiki for the food that you need for your class if you don't have a cook who can make it for you. Or just check the auction hall and it'll be full of it and it'll be one of the most expensive ones.
Or your kin mates can help you.
Your kin mates can help you. People will generally tell you what you need if you ask. But also, then like once you learn what you need, the next expansion will come out in a couple months, and then it will make all of the food that you've acquired obsolete for that character as soon as you level it. So check the level of your food every so often, and I guess eat if you're feeling squishy or going raiding.
Yeah, that's
That tends to be when
probably.
I use the scrolls and tokens too, if I'm feeling squishy or going raiding.
Oh yeah, it's like when I'm doing an episode and I'm going into an instance and I'm going about after about the first couple pulls, I said, I'm getting peckish now. So
Right? I think maybe I could do this a little bit better if I had a little bit. Oh, yeah, that made a big difference. Or, oh, this food is more than 10 levels old. It'll help, but I should probably go get some new. Yeah. So, that might not be the most helpful, but I've stopped worrying about it myself.
yeah, you see that we are not exactly the ones who are necessarily prepping everything for the top end raid or anything like that.
Now, there are players who change out their armor every, like, 5 levels for the highest max armor that they can get and have the
That's
best
right.
food for their level. And, um, if you wish to be one of these players, you will soon know what food you need at what levels for which characters because you will have learned it. But I, I never did.
Well, the only reason I know is because usually I have a cook in there. Since my main's a cook, well, I might not know what the best food is or anything like this, but at least I know that, well, they're giving us this recipe, so it has to be an upgrade over the previous one, right?
I mean, I have a cook and I can go make myself food for whatever level, but I don't usually worry about like, is this the best food at this level? I get the food from my um, primary stat. I get the incumbent region food, and then at lower levels I get a resistant soup of some sort. At higher levels,
Why, you
that's
need anything
combined
else?
into the main stat. But
I mean, you need anything else other than?
I don't think you can get anything else other than those 3 types. And the resistant soup is always a little bit tricky, but like, if you know that
Now,
you're going into a spider area, do a poison resistance. If you
doesn't
know
the
you're going
picnic
into a
table
ghost area, do fear. If you don't know, just do whatever.
isn't the picnic table beyond the 3, or am I not thinking of that correctly?
The picnic table was the picnic table will do all 3. Maybe it's beyond the 3. But you can use it instead of something if
Okay,
maybe it
okay.
depends on which picnic table. Maybe it's the banquet table I'm thinking of. But the latest, well, okay, I don't know about the current latest expansion. The expansion before this, if you had your Umbar rep up, you could make a table that everybody could eat from and get all of their food stats from it. And it
Right.
persisted through death, which was really incredible.
Well, that's some good eating.
It was good eating. A lot of work to be able to make it, but it completely negated the need to know which food you wanted to eat. So you just eat from the table and the game gives you the stats.
Okay. Anything else on that question?
I don't think I
So
have
what's the
anything else on it.
all right? What's the second question then?
How did you find the kinship or kinships you are in?
All right, because current kinships that I am in, well, actually, I'm in more than one kinship because it depends on the server and all that. But my main kinship right now is Mythgard. And so I will presume I found ink, and of course I follow a lot of things with Corey Olson and all that. And well, if you follow around with that, you eventually run into the Mythgard kinship
It's true.
because that's the kinship that he uses for all of his stuff.
That's how I found Mythgard.
Yep.
I was actually familiar with the Mythgard kinship before I was familiar with the game.
All right. What about you, Krister?
Well, it's an ancient tale.
Uh-oh.
A long time ago, I belonged to a kin of my friends that had come. We had started our adventures in a game called EverQuest, and then we'd hopped a bunch of different MMOs, and we ended up in LOTRO. Everybody left, and I was the only one in the kinship for quite some time. I'd say about 8 months. And then one night, because I like going to the Prancing Pony because everybody was there role playing and everything. So I went to the Prancing Pony one night, and I had decided to finally leave the kin. And so I was there. This guy comes up to me, approaches me, and says, "Hey, you don't belong to a kin. Would you like to join my kin?" And so I joined this kin where I met a person that I think we're all familiar with, Finor. And
Yep.
I meet Finor there, and eventually me and Finor find ourselves in another kin called Dragonfly, and then that kin goes through some tribulations, and then we end up in Ploy. And so that was it. And it's incredible to think about. It's been like 15 years, since I've been affiliated with these people, this group. So it's pretty impressive.
That's awesome.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, I found Mythgard through Coriolson's streams and podcast. Listening to that led me to the LOTRO Players Academy podcast, which led me to the Academy Kinship, which is now on Sting. Being part of Mythgard, I met Maven, Glordriel, who introduced me to Finneor, and that's how I have characters in Ploy. And then I think I still have some characters in Mythgard, but that's kind of faded out in my active kinships right now. Ploy's still pretty active, and I'm now involved with the Knights of the White Lady kinship as well, because I made friends with Lunori and Gorindus, and that's their main kinship. I'm also part of a lot of kinships that I made up all on my own and or with some friends, because we were like, oh, this would be a funny kinship name. Let's make it. Or I have like one kinship like for my alts that I did not want to keep being invited to random kinships. And it's kind of like a family kinship now. And yeah, so I'm part of a smattering of like just much smaller kinships as well. But most of them I either found by making friends in game, or listening to a podcast, or created myself.
Thank you on that. So, let's head into our week in LOTRO. And Krister, what have you been up to?
Well, as I was wandering around with my low-level character again, I was reminiscing about how awesome it was when I was first playing the game to come across some of the classic locations in the literature for the first time. And I had the moment where I found the trolls and the troll shaws. And I just remember the first time coming across them and just being blown away by that scene. But like even writing and seeing Weathertop for the first time and understanding what it is, and just thinking how cool it was to see these landmarks that you'd been reading about for years, and to see them imagined. So it's been fun. It's been fun playing the low level again. Although I really want a high level, because now I just want to be riding my warhorse and trampling people, and I don't see why I can't do that right now, even as a low level. People can hop into gigantic cars and crash them. Why can't I hop onto a giant horse? Be level 10.
Worst thing that would happen is I would crash into a bunch of things, and it would only inconvenience me.
Exactly. See? But anyways. And then this week also played some Civ, which has been a lot of fun. And I picked up Subnautica 2, and it is a beautiful game so far. So that's been my week in LOTRO. Cinders, if you're there, what were you up to?
I am here, and I'm really sorry. I'm only catching like little snippets of the audio. So, like, I heard Sanswinda back when you guys were doing the store sales. I heard her name and was like, okay. And then you guys were like, Cinders isn't here. I was like, what? So, yeah. My last 2 weeks have been primarily consumed with real life things. But I did make some time to play some LOTRO with Pineleaf yesterday and advance the Mazzotti storyline just a little bit. And then I have been playing Civ 6 because my kid re-downloaded it and wanted to play with me. So I've been playing with him, and then a little bit with Krister as well. So looking forward to some more over the long weekend and getting to play and spend time with everybody. Sans, how was your week?
My week was pretty good. I became a student of the past on my new alt on Ingmar after fighting with the Intro to Farming quest for a while. Turns out that if you have a crafting bag that is currently actively gathering things like your crops from your fields, you might plant the yellow onion field multiple times and harvest it multiple times and never advance the quest. I finally pulled the yellow onion crops out of my craft bag. And fortunately, that was enough to do it. I didn't have to go redo another one. But I planted many, many yellow onion fields before I figured this out. And I played some ESO and Slay the Spire 2 this week as well, but real life mostly took over. So that's pretty much my week. How was your week, Pineleaf?
That was my tweet. All right. My warden completed the final section in the Mizzotti storyline. As I mentioned earlier on that, I still have this instance to do when they release it, but other than that, I finished up her storyline. The Hardened Traveler group investigated the aftermath of a grounded dark flyer down in the Brownlands, and during the field trip, we ran several skirmishes. So let's head into news beyond LOTRO, where Drac has reviewed a new game called The Hobbit, There and Back Again, Roll and Write. And so he gives us a review on this, where released by Office Dog Games and designed by the legendary Reiner Knizia, The Hobbit, There and Back Again is a narrative-driven roll and write that manages to pack a surprising amount of tactical depth into a cozy storybook-style package. Unlike many games in this genre that feel like solitary math exercises, this one leans heavily into the theme of Bilbo's journey, splitting the experience into 8 distinct replayable chapters. So at its heart, the game uses open dice drafting, each round a pool of five six-sided dice, and occasionally a 12-sided die is rolled. Players take turns selecting one die at a time and perform the actions on their individual dry erase adventure books. So he goes about talks about scenario-based progression. Yes, what makes this stand out is how each of the 8 chapters introduces new rules that mirror the book's plot. Chapter 1, an unexpected party, and then more after that. And the puzzles become more abstract and difficult, involve dodging thunderstorms, solving Gollum's riddles, and the final confrontation with Smaug. And the components are High Point, featuring dark, thick cardboard tokens and fabric feel rulebooks that elevate the cozy autumn aesthetics. Anyway, this is put out by Office Dog Games, and his final verdict is: my only significant complaint with this game is the very prone to analysis paralysis. Well, it's a Reiner Knizia game. What do you expect? Because the dice drafting is shared, you can't just look at what helps you. You're often looking at what your opponents need, between calculating the best path rotation and weighing which resources most critical to the current chapter's goals. Turns that can occasionally grind to a halt as players over-optimize their sheets. Yes, definitely a Reiner Knizia game. Okay. If you can handle the occasional slowdown from perfectionist players, this is a must play for Tolkien fans. It's shorter and gentler than the heavy Euro game, but offers much more strategic meat than your average fill in the box dice games. It perfectly captures the spirit of the journey, where the path you take is just as important as the destination. And I had not Well, I guess because I so often hear about that, I might have run into and mentioned this at some point, but it completely slipped my mind. Probably because half the time when I hear people giving demos to games on YouTube, more often than not, it's for some sort of Kickstarter onto it. So it's like, okay, well, this is going to be out in another year or so. So, but anyway, that is The Hobbit There and Back Again, a roll and write game. The dice game of Bilbo's journey to the Lonely Mountain, spanning 8 unique adventures, designed by Rainer Knizia. Okay, and also we have an announcement. You can a return to Middle Earth. Kingdom Come devs announce an open world Middle Earth RPG. Yes, an open world RPG in there. Yes, fantasy and RPG fans, brace yourself for Warhorse Studios, the acclaimed developers behind the Kingdom Come Deliverance series, has officially confirmed that they are working on a brand new open world Middle Earth RPG. While details of this are heavily under wraps, the pedigree of the studio and the sheer scale of the intellectual property point towards it being one of the most ambitious fantasy gaming projects in years. Now, I've never played any of the Kingdom Come games, so I really don't have a baseline on knowing what they do and what to expect from them. I don't know if any of you have ever played anything in the Kingdom Come series.
I
I
have
have not,
not.
unfortunately.
I have also not.
All right. Then I suppose you could then read up the linked article, which is Drax's discussion about what this is, and apparently there have been other recent announcements, you know, articles by other people and things like this. But right now, pretty much they haven't released any details of it or anything like this, such as when is it set exactly? Because if you're going to have a big open world RPG type system in there, you I have a feeling that you're not going to set it during the War of the Ring, because during the War of the Ring, there's just so much described into there that people are going to want you to be doing that. I have a feeling it's not an ideal time probably for a game of this nature. So Drac does make some speculation about potential timelines. Because it's labeled Middle Earth RPG, there's a very strong chance that it won't be during Frodo's exact quest to destroy the One Ring. Instead, Warhorse has thousands of years of lore to go on. Well, it all depends on what you could do with the rights that they have, I guess is going to be the question. But one possible things are the Angmar War, the collapse of the northern kingdom of Arnor, where the Witch King of Angmar decimated the land, leaving behind a fractured world perfect for an open world setting. The Kinstrife, a brutal Gondorian civil war filled with political betrayal, massive sieges, and fractured loyalties. And the early Third Age, roaming the wilderness as one of the early Northern Rangers trying to protect remnants of civilization after the fall of. Well, it says the fall of Isildur. I think more like the fall of Arnor and the fall of Numinous is probably more, or perhaps maybe during the wars between Cardolan and. Oh boy, I forgot what the faction is that sort of like turned towards the Witch King, shall we say. So you could just imagine the wars that they were holding on that could possibly going on. So something that's up in the history that's discussed in the appendices or something like that might be a good candidate for what's going on in here. I guess we will find out when they actually release something of more substance. And that's it for the news beyond LOTRO. If you have any feedback for us, you could send it to podcast@LotraPlayers.com. The Players Alliance has 2 shows on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We have Lotra Players News, and we record the DDO Players News when Drac is available. You can join our shows at at LotraPlayers.com/live. And that is all for tonight. Then this is Pilot News reminding you to skirmish responsibly.